Hello students, we'll be starting our first lecture from the prescribed syllabus, and that is the first poem, that is by James Thomson, and the name of the poem is Winter. When we talk about James Thomson's achievements as a poet, we see that the seasons from which the poem Winter is taken, or which is a part of this book, The Seasons, is very well represented by the works that Thomson has written. So it is a representative poem of Thomson's literature or Thomson's works, and when we read through the poem or the poems in The Seasons, we find that it is a departure from the urban and the political poetry of his predecessors. We see that Thomson, Collins, Gray and Cooper are hailed as the precursors of Romanticism, as their work marked a shift towards nature, the countryside, and the personal details are seen everywhere in their poems. A cycle of 4 long poems are there in The Seasons, which is in a blank verse with a brief concluding hymn. The Seasons celebrates the magnificence and harmony of nature as a manifestation of the Supreme Being. It embodies literary, philosophical and theological ideas which are characteristic of the 18th century. Yet it also prefigures the Romantic movement of the 19th century, particularly in its depictions of storms and wilderness, because you know, or you must have heard, if you have a chance to know about the Romantic movement, because it is more and more about the natural beauty. So we can see that it enjoys the extraordinary popularity and influence in both the centuries, and its impressive and picturesque landscape made it very favorite text for illustration. Talking about the poem, we see that the poem evolves gradually, beginning with a short piece called Winter, which was published in 1726. As Thomson expanded and revised his work, he adopted the Georgics, which is the English translation of the ancient Roman poet Virgil, as his literary model, finding there a precedent for his subject matter, which was nature, his 4-part structure and his elevated style, standing in the middle ground between the pastoral and the epic. Georgic verse was expected to use lofty diction, celebrating the earth's bounty, means the things that are surrounded around on the earth and which are bountiful, whereas pastoral poetry uses nature artificially as stage scenery. For the philosophizing of urbane shepherds, Georgic poetry draws inspiration from the noble labor of the farmer, which means that the difference is that it is natural, it derives from the natural sources, while the pastoral poetry is artificial. It takes its inspiration from the artificial subject. Thomson, therefore, by no means restricts himself to the farm. However, he seeks in untamed nature a special quality that fascinated his age, the sublime, the paradoxically uplifting experience of awe and even of terror. Each of the four poems open with conventional elements, that is, the invocation to the poet's muse and an elegant address to his patron. Thereafter, each poem starts loosely and adheres to a different structural principle. The first poem in the seasons is the spring, that celebrates the influence of the season over the whole chain of being. As you must have understood by now, that seasons is about the four seasons, and the poem prescribed in our syllabi is winter. So we are just touching through the other poems that are in the collection, that is the seasons. So the first one is the spring, that celebrates the influence of the season over the whole chain of being, starting with the lowest inanimate matter and ending with the highest of beings on earth, that is man. Thomson prefers not to depict nature for its own sake, but to do so for what it teaches, and many of its glories become occasions for edifying digression. After describing the breezes warming the soil, the poet argues of the dignity of his theme. For agricultural grounds, the guy British Empire as it once crowned the Roman Empire. Describing the rainbow after a spring shower, he contrasts the scientific theory of Sir Isaac Newton with the dumb amazement of the ignorant swain. The thought of the virtues in herbs provokes a long discussion of humanity's lost innocence. In days of old reason governed passion, and even the lion was gentle. But since the flood, afflictions have beset humanity. Yet humankind still neglects the wholesome herb and consumes the flesh of harmless animals. Some readers, though, have criticized the looseness that results from the circulatory method that he has used, and there is no doubt that the long cumulative process of composition worked against the development of a rigid structure. But this lack of architecture reflects Thomson's sense of nature, for the poem possesses an underlying coherence that may be discerned only intermittently beneath the wonderful variety of the surface. So the birds follow vegetation. The poem relates how, infused with love from the source of beings, they mate and build nests, brood over their eggs, and at last teach their offsprings the art of flight, that how to fly. This springtime diffusion of amorous passions dominates the rest of the poem, but it refuses to conduct out of respect for female readers. So he has not given a detailed discussion of animals and gives rise instead to a lecture on the torments that befall the youthful lovers and the happiness of those who join in marriage and bring forth a delightful human blossom. So in a way, moralizing or didactic verse of this type was considered to be an integral part of the topographical poem which was written in those periods, in which an impressive landscape becomes the occasion for profound and edifying meditation. We'll continue with our lecture in our next class. Thank you.